So the next thing we need to do is we need to tell our login user to also handle post request, because if you remember here, we're sending the action to the /login. So this is the request handler for the /login. Okay, it's this one here. Although it's only, for now, it's only handling GET requests. So we also need to tell it to handle post requests. So def post. And here we will need to pick up those values we are sending. So email is equal to self.request.get email. And the password is going to be the same thing. Password equals self request get password. Okay, let's print out these values to see if we're getting them. Go here and hit send. So here we see my email, which was introduced into the form, and the password I had typed. Okay, so this looks good. Okay, so here is the part where we actually need to check whether the password is correct. Well, first actually we need to check whether the user exists, and if the user exists, we need to check if the password matches for this given user. So again, we will need to start hashing passwords, and if it matches, then we know that we can log the user in. So first of all, let's implement this part where we check whether the password is correct or not. So the way I like to do this is I like to implement this functionality inside of our users model, because I mean, this is in the add new users where we are actually hashing the password. So why not also implement the check password here, right? For me, this is the correct place. But again, this is very personal and it depends on your personal preferences, how you like to organize your code. So I'm going to add a class method and say def check password. Okay, so the two parameters that we will need to accept are email and the password. So this is the email sent by the user and the password declared by the user. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and fetch the user. So user is equal to, and we can use the class we already created, which is check if exists. Okay, so cls.check if exists email. So this will retrieve the user by email if it exists. If it doesn't, then it will be a none. And now we can say if user, so if the user exists. If it doesn't, we can simply return something that says, you know, that gives to understand that the user doesn't exist. So return, let's say none for now. Okay, so if the user exists, we need to get their password. So hashed password is equal to user.password. Okay, so now we have their password, and from this password, if you remember, we stored the salt together with the entire password. Okay, and since we know that the salt is always going to be of fixed length, okay, so the salt in this case, using the urandom64 and the b64 encode, we know that our salt is going to be 88 characters long, and you can test this for yourself, but you know, I've done the tests beforehand, so I know that our salt is 88 characters long. So the first 88 characters of our password are going to be the salt, and the rest is going to be the actual hashed password with the salt inside of the hash function. Okay, so let's see how we do this. Salt is equal to hashed password, and now Python has a extremely useful, handy way of slicing strings. So we open up the square brackets, and here we specify from which character to which character we want to slice the string. So we can say from the 0 character, so from the first character to the character 88, okay? Although we don't even need to specify the 0, because if we leave this part blank here, Python will know that we're actually intending to slice it from the very beginning to the character 88, okay? So this is an extremely useful way of slicing strings. So now we have our salt extracted from our password. We can check whether or not the password matches. So we can say check password is equal to the salt plus the SHA-256 of the salt plus the declared password. So we need to run the hex digest in order to convert this part into a string. So again, we're doing the exact same thing as above, okay? So if you see, this line is exactly the same as this line here. So this will give the hash of the salt that we have for this user and the password declared by the user trying to log in. And if this gives the exact same thing as our original hashed password, then the password must be correct. So we can say if check password is equal to hashed password, then we know that the password is correct. So we can return something that is not a none. So return user.key.id. So I'm just going to return the ID of the user. And this way I'll know that the password is correct. So whenever the return of this function is not none, I'll know that the password is correct, okay? Else I need to return a none, because else the password doesn't match, so I don't want to log in the user. Okay, good. So here I can say, let's print out to see what we get out of that function. So first I need to import the model. So from models.users import users, sorry. And now I can say print users.check password, and I'll pass in the email and the password sent to us through the form. So I'll go to the login page, sign in, and see what we get. So I got a none, probably because the value I had here was not correct. So let's see if I remember my password. And no, apparently I don't remember my password, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete the user and re-register. Okay, I've re-registered, and hopefully now this password is correct. So let's see. And here it is. Okay, so the password matches now, and this is my user ID. So I can go ahead and continue implementing my functionality, because now I know that the password checking functionality is working.